Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Board Draw podcast. And we've got two very special guests from very far away. We've got Abz and we've got Tom from the United by Football podcast. They're based down under in Australia. How you doing, boys?
Doing good, doing good.
Mate, we're doing well. It's been a long day today. We've been up
Very
since
long
about 4 in the morning. You guys might know Juan Mata. We've basically been in and around the siding here in Western Sydney Wanderers. So, yeah.
Been a long day. Been a long day.
And you've got Premier League football in, I don't know, the midnight hours for you guys.
In about
An hour.
52 minutes.
Bloody hell, yeah.
But today we're not talking about Premier League. We're talking about what, in my opinion, is the best football competition ever. It is the Champions League. It's back for, what is it, like its 50th iteration?
But is it still the best competition anymore after the major rejig in the structure? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Kind of the change on how it's structured, the different amount of games, more teams. So, Luke, run us through kind of what's changed about the Champions League.
On paper, it looks like it's a massive overhaul and maybe the Super League in disguise. But the first change has been that it's gone from 32 to 36 teams, so an additional 4 teams now, which is going to mean more games for everyone. Obviously, the previous iteration was 4 teams, 8 groups, but that's now being replaced by a league stage where each team will play 8 matches against 8 different teams.
Yeah.
So they play 4 home, 4 away, and then all the teams are then ranked in like one sort of league table. If you finish in the top 8, means you immediately qualify for the last 16. While teams between 9th and 24th will contest sort of like a Champions League playoff. And if you win that, you get through to the knockout stages. And there's no safety net. If you finish in the bottom 8, I believe it is, or the bottom 12, yeah, you get basically booted out, and there's no Europa League for you. So obviously,
Interesting.
the Champions League for pretty much as long as we've known it has been group stages. There's a brilliant draw, and then you get out your group, you go into the knockout rounds, and it's just how we knew and loved it. Obviously, a couple of years ago there was sort of itterings of this Super League, sort of similar to what's happened here. I don't mind it personally. I think it probably maybe is fairer. It gives teams more variety, but I mean, if you're a team like Young Boys and you get put into a group with, Liverpool, PSG, and Real Madrid, you've got no chance because you've got to play each of them twice. Whereas now you might have a bit more chances. You get 4 games at home, 4 games away,
And they're like tiered, aren't they? So you play 2 tier 1 teams, 2 tier 2 teams, 2 tier 3 teams, 2 tier 4 teams. Boys, before we kind of talk about how we feel about the new structure, Arsenal fan, Chelsea fan on your end, give us some kind of, I don't know, favourite memories of Champions Leagues gone by. Arsenal and Abs, I know there's probably not much going for us, but Tom, Champions League, you've had a disgusting amount of success for my liking. Talk to me about Chelsea's Champions League success.
You know what? We've had two over you guys, no offense, and 2 over QPR, I believe. I'm joking. But for me, it's been in an era where we couldn't really celebrate. For me, I was too young. I'm 23 now, so first one was in 2012. Drogba. So yeah, I was year 7. I didn't really have a memory of it, and then obviously when we won it in 2021 against City with COVID, in Porto, a quarter of the stadium was full. But for me, Ross, as you were saying, my favourite game that I've ever seen for Chelsea was against Madrid, and I know it was in COVID times, but mate, when Timo Werner's coming like the second coming of Karim Benzema, scoring 2 tap-ins off the rebounds off the header. For me, it was blessed. It was bound to happen, and for me, that's just it's a game that will stick with me to the day I die because we had 0 chance in that tie.
That was N'Golo Kante, man of the match, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, he's had a few man of the match performances. Yeah. But for me, it was that's a game that will stick with me to the day I die because that's a game where as soon as we won that, I thought, you know what, we're beating City.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, call me a fortune teller, but as soon as it was written in the stars for me.
And there's something special about when it happens midweek under the lights. It's so like, I don't know, it just gets your heart going. Abs, what about you? I know we've had some Champions League heartbreak. Talk to me about the Champions League.
So, look, I could turn around and give you the BS answer and say, it was Thierry Henry running down, the Santiago Bernabeu, running everyone down to the corner. It's not. I wasn't necessarily as aware back then. I'm only 25 in a few months, but my recent memory probably goes back to either one or two things. Mesut Ozil versus Ludogorets.
Nice.
If you remember that goal.
Yep.
I think one of those, mate.
Mesut Ozil is the reason I fell in love with football, and that goal just epitomizes who he is as a player. Or, this may be a bit of a weird one, 2-1 Bayern Munich at the Emirates.
Yeah, I like that.
You remember it? You remember it? With the goal at the end, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain thought he slammed it in. It just went over the line. Look, we don't have much to pick from, especially in these last, let's just say, 10 to 12 years. But
what about Porto penalty shootout?
It's a bit too recent, mate. They ended up with, I think, the reverse. I think Sporting. No, that was Europa League the year before. But yeah, it has to be that. If it were memory-wise things that I've seen, it's definitely that Thierry Henry one. It's Arsenal at their best, taking it to teams at the Bernabeu.
You were robbed.
And we were robbed. You know,
I think you were.
Another favourite moment of mine, we were robbed against Barcelona in 2006. So
that's the one, isn't it? Or even the one where Robin van Persie booted the ball away, didn't hear the referee blow the whistle, and then he got red carded.
Yeah, man, no.
We've had some absolute stinkers in the Champions League, so maybe we're not too sad to see it change up. How do you feel about the changes? So Luke just kind of ran us through it. It's kind of now more games per team, a league format, early doors, and then a knockout. How do you feel about the kind of the restructuring?
Let's focus on that first point, because I think it's quite an interesting one. Maybe from a perspective outside of the UK, more games. So you're now playing 8 games in the group stage as opposed to 6 games. But you hear this this ongoing narrative that, you know, teams are playing too many games now. Some teams play, you know, like 70 games a season. Where do you stand on that? Do you think there's such a thing as playing too many games?
So Thomas and I, if you can recall, about you exactly what you're talking about. So we had a whole debate on this when the Super League came back knocking. I was in the belief that I get what they're trying to do. I get the Super League idea as a whole. I just don't agree now with the way the Champions League's done it, because these players play enough games. Players like Kevin De Bruyne, for example, can barely keep themselves fit because of the amount of games they have to play. Bukayo Saka, by the end of last season, was burnt out because of the amount of games he has to play. So, yes, you can call upon squad management. Yes, you can call upon all of that. But I just believe that they're pushing our players too much for the sake of money. This is all money driven.
100%.
And having to play more games, as you said, team like Young Boys, having then being at the bottom, let's just say the bottom tier of all of this, having basically every team to them that they're going to have to play, aside from the one on their team, is a challenge. So how do you balance that and then have to go back to your league as a team like Young Boys and have to challenge there, challenge here? Pardon my French, but you're effed either way. Like you're gone in a sense where you have to pick one or the other. And then the next season, you might not make it through to the Champions League.
That's it. Well, for me, Abz, it's about player welfare, as you sort of started on that point. It's got to a point where players are not having breaks. They're forced to play major international tournaments that come around every 2 years. There's not a major international tournament. You got some friendly and God knows where. I love it when they come to Australia, but for player welfare, it's got to a point where it's ridiculous. And you're asking them to play 2 more games, Luke? Is that correct? And then the normal. So you're asking them to play 2 more games, okay? But it's 4 games out of your control in an away stadium where you don't have the return to do that to the other team in your home. And you're going home, away, home, away, home, away. And you don't even have the choice to rebuttal against that team. For me, nothing will beat the old, as you were saying, Ross, the old format. Under those lights, something just feels different, and the comebacks and the storylines.
Exactly.
For me, I'm a big nostalgia merchant. That's what he calls me. I'm a very big football was better back then. And for me, this is just a move to a not called Super League, but it's the Super League.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think what you to echo your sentiment there, it's you're adding 2 games in where one of them is going to be played away. And then that's got to fit within a midweek fixture, then between 2 Premier League games for the Premier League sides.
So like Arsenal this week, not to bring everything back to Arsenal, but we've got away at Spurs, then away in Atalanta, and then away at Man City. And it's
a lot of travel, a lot of miles to do. And for like all these big organizations who want to promote sort of like looking after the environment, and they're just whacking all these air miles on. That doesn't help either. I mean, this isn't the first change that's happened in recent memory. That obviously last year they got rid of the away goals rule, which, in my opinion, was one of the things that made the Champions League so exciting, because teams, and there's two sort of sides to this coin. I've seen Gary Lineker say that he likes the fact they've scrapped it, because it means in the first leg, the home team will come out and actually go for it a bit more and try and take an advantage. Whereas before they might have sat back and tried to not concede away goals and then gone to the opposition and then gone for it a bit more. I still think away goals is just the way to go. It's so exciting when, it'd be 4-4 and they claw back, but they've got to still get one more, because otherwise they're going to lose on away goals. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Are you for the away goals rule, or are you happy that you scrapped it?
I'm against it. I don't like it. Personally, I don't like it, because it's
just not because you've been done in the past.
No, but
doesn't mean you,
bro. It's not fair that you're going. Let's just say it's finished. I don't know, 2-0 in the first leg, and then you've brought it back, but because you've conceded 2 on away grounds, you screwed. I don't like that. 2 goals are 2 goals, whether it's away or whether it's at home. 2 goals. It's in the back of the net. Makes no difference. It's not fair that a team has trained God knows how many weeks for a game just to be knocked out because of one stupid rule. That's personally my thing. I just think that maybe it comes from a part where we've been burnt by it. Maybe if it brings back, I think it was Monaco, I believe, that we got knocked out on away goals. Yes, mate, it's just frustrating.
For me, on the other hand, I think it sets a really good storyline. In football, I've always described it as it's fine margins, fine details, and it sort of hinges on one point. And you know that the storyline's in play when you're a goal down and you've got to get that second. Okay, the other team's going to park the bus. You have to go for it.
Yeah.
You have to go for it. And then you're going to see crosses in the box. You're going to see a deflection. You're going to see a little stupid challenge. And then you sort of can predict what's going to happen, but that's what makes you fall in love with it, because you don't at the same time. You sort of know, but you don't.
It's all about the storylines for me. I think storylines is what makes football.
Well, that's what you're going to potentially lose in the group stages now, is because you won't see Newcastle going to PSG being hard done by, and then PSG going to Newcastle, and then Newcastle potentially trying to rectify the wrongs, because they're only going to play them once. You're going to play at Atalanta on Wednesday or Tuesday, and then you might not see them again, or you might see them again in the knockout stages. So like the storylines aren't going to be quite as cohesive and brought together and structured. And the fact as well, I forgot to mention whilst we were talking about the extra games, having these extra games is only beneficial to the bigger teams who have better squads, and you see it in the Premier League as well. Like teams like,
it's like when they introduced the 5 substitute rule instead of the 3 substitute rule, and everyone was saying that benefits the teams with bigger squads, better
players.
And this is kind of like that. If you play more games, but you've got a bigger squad, if you're like Chelsea and you've got a 55-man squad,
you could have one squad for the Champions League.
Yeah, you could have a Champions League squad and a Premier League squad. But like Luke said, the teams lower down the tiers that have to juggle midweek games and league games on the weekend,
and they don't have a 40-man squad to call upon,
it's going to be a struggle. So I think, it does benefit the big sides. And that's, like we said, it's all money these days. And it's all about getting the big teams with the big players on TV as much as possible.
Yeah, and we're seeing that. I mean, even just with pre-season fixtures, they're going up to like Australia, America, China, Korea, and they're playing these like tournaments where you've got Arsenal playing Man United, then playing Liverpool, then playing Man City, and you're like, but like it's pre-season.
But for me, what's the penalty shootout at the end? For me, I don't get that American.
Oh, it's so weird. It's so weird.
It's weird. Anyway, sorry, that's just a weird tangent. So before I let Abdul speak, by the way, I've just thought of it now, and it's sort of off script, but this sort of new Champions League format, I'm not sure if you boys have already discussed it between yourself, but for me, they're sort of using this as a sort of tester. If this goes well, I wouldn't personally, it wouldn't be too far in my imagination to think that this might be introduced in the World Cup or a European sort of format at the start, because it's a sort of similar number of teams, sort of similar number of things, and the World Cup is the biggest money spinner on earth besides the Olympics.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. They've just bumped up the World Cup by 14.
Numbers,
36 teams in the Champions League, I believe. 36 teams.
It's going to be a test, though. Like, guys, watch this space between.
I like that. Get your tinfoil hat on. Yeah.
No, it's a very good shot. And I mean, like you say, it's all driven by money. They want to get as many eyes as possible. If they can introduce more nations to the World Cup or the Euros, that means they're going to have more people invested, more people watching, more people traveling, more people spending money, more people buying tickets. They get to sell more television time, more adverts. So, and it's all about expansion. Whereas, and maybe this is the issue here, is that it's diluting the standard of the competition. Because who really wants to go and see Real Madrid playing like Slovan Bratislava?
Like, the Slovan Bratislavas will enjoy that,
but they'll enjoy that. But then for Real Madrid, it's just another game on the fixture. And you know, maybe I'm wrong, because those are the games that can prove like a massive upset. And you know, that'll be one of the storylines of the Champions League. Real Madrid went to Bratislava and got slapped 4-0.
Exactly.
You know, how did that happen? But I guess I don't know. It's something I'm putting out there. Maybe does it dilute the competition? Does it not? I don't know.
But I just want to take you back to a point. I think Ross will remember this. I just think in general, when it comes to, even when the format before, because we've got cups, we've got League Cups, we've got the FA Cup, we've got the Premier League, and on top they got when we had a few seasons ago, the Europa League. Because we didn't have that squad depth. If you remember the same game, we lost Tomiyasu and we lost Saliba against Sporting, I believe.
Yeah.
And all it takes is one game where you have to overuse a player once, they get injured, and your whole season's gone. And that's kind of my problem with forget the Champions League, just that many competitions in general. It's just overusing players for the sake of money, for the sake of, you know, higher ups who don't care a single bit about football, just wanting to fill their pockets a bit more. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's a hard one, because you're excited, and it is exciting until, like you said, until it goes wrong and you lose a Saka or you lose a Saliba, and then it's not exciting anymore. But if you go all the way in all the competitions, it's the most exciting thing going.
I mean, for me, my team have competed in 2 European competitions, the previous iteration of the Champions League, European Cup. Highest goal per game ratio we have, 39 goals in 12 games, QPR.
Oh, no.
Not bad.
Didn't
you have to drop that one in there while we're talking here.
But as a neutral, as a team who I doubt are going to be near the Champions League anytime soon, I don't mind it. I like more games. When I can come home from work and then there's always a bit of football on, I love it. But
that's true.
Echoing what you said, when you, like you say, if you go and you have to overuse players and you lose Saliba, Tomiyasu, whoever, it's just killer, isn't it? It kills your season. And all it takes is one game, and it will be the most stupid game ever. It will be like you go and play some random team in a country that you've never heard of, and then suddenly 4 of your players come back injured. You know,
it's like the international break. All the Arsenal players have come back injured.
It's messed up. I just remember that game. Ramsdale got dunked on from halfway, and we lost Saliba, we lost Tomiyasu, we lost 3 games back to back, and before you know, we're gone from a happy season. We might win this, we might win that. We've won nothing, and half a squad's in the medical lab. So it's it's just how it is.
Right. This is the sort of part where everyone wants to know what's going to happen. I've got here who Opta have used their supercomputer to predict who are the favourites. I don't know who going into this do you believe are the favourites? One answer from each of you.
Are we talking Premier League teams, or are we talking who's going to win it all?
Who's going to win the Champions League?
Avengers Assemble, Real Madrid.
Yeah, I think the house goes on Real Madrid with a squad like that, to be honest with you. There's no question.
The squad's a joke.
Interestingly, Opta have Man City as favourites to win it with a percentage of 25.3.
Wow.
Real Madrid are second place with 18.2% chance of winning it. Oh. And then you'll never guess who's third. Inter Milan. Inter Milan apparently got 10.9% chance of winning it. They do like 10,000 simulations and they won it 10.9% of the time. And
Opta's in for a shock, I'll tell you that. Opta's in for a shock.
Yeah, so you got Man City, Real Madrid, Inter Milan, Arsenal, and then Bayer Leverkusen is the 5th favourites to win it. We'll start with Arsenal then. They've got a fairly interesting run going all around Europe. They've got this isn't in order, but they've got PSG, Inter Milan, Shakhtar, Atalanta, Zagreb, Sporting Lisbon, Monaco, and Girona. So a few big hitters in there. You've got obviously PSG, Inter Milan, who are probably from the top tier. Section, and then Atalanta you've got Donetsk, Atalanta, Zagreb, and Lisbon. Maybe Atalanta and Lisbon are the ones that you maybe a bit worrying about a bit. And then from that bottom tier, you've actually got Monaco and Girona.
Yeah, I think we've actually got quite a hard draw, but games that I'm excited about. no team that I think we are worse than, which is nice for Arsenal because normally when you hark back to the Champions League when we're drawing Bayern or I don't know, God knows Real Madrid, then you're thinking Jesus Christ. But I think being a high tier seeded team now, it's exciting. Abs, what's your vibe about the 8 teams we've pulled in our Champions League?
Look, Atalanta scare me.
Yeah, man.
They're a good side.
They can play.
Girona, they're not Girona from last season. So
no, they've lost some players.
Yeah. PSG, well, it just depends on who turns up on the day, but it's those Italian teams, man. I just don't think we function well playing them. Surprisingly, Emery did better with them than Mikel did, but I don't see the way we play football and the way these Italian teams play and defend as 2 things that can kind of work. It's either going to be we're going to win 4-5 or we're just going to have one of those games where we lose 2-0 and it's just frustrating to watch. So
yeah,
they're the hard ones there. And who are the other 2? So the first 2.
Monaco, you've
got Shakhtar Donetsk at home, Dynamo Zagreb at home, and then you've also got Sporting Lisbon away, Monaco at home.
Yeah, and Lisbon's probably the other one because they play probably, if I remember correctly, the most similar to us. And so they called them a B-Tech Arsenal at the time. So they've improved over the last 2 seasons as well. So
plus they've got the most informed striker.
Gyökeres, what a player!
And I mean,
yeah.
When you played against Porto last year in the Champions League, that wasn't all smooth sailing, was it?
No,
that was quite a different game.
So I do think we should win 5 at least. I think we beat PSG.
I mean, if you don't immediately get off to a good start, it's not the end of the world. You have games now to make it up, but you're going to want to be in that top 8. I mean, there's going to be teams that win all 8 of their games, and there'll probably be about 4 of them that do that. So you need, if you drop points, you can't really afford to drop any more because you don't want to be going into that playoff game. That's another game you have to play. That's another risk of injury. We'll move on to Manchester City, who are Opta's favourites to win it. They've also got Inter Milan.
Inter Milan getting us and Man City is not ideal.
And PSG have also pulled Arsenal, Man City. Man City, you've got Inter Milan, PSG, Bruges, Juventus, Feyenoord, Lisbon, Sparta Prague, and Slovan Bratislava.
Is that 8 out of 8 for Man City?
No. I think they drop against Juventus.
No, for me, Inter.
Really?
They drop against Inter.
I like Inter. I think Inter are a good shout for doing well in the Champions League. They've got a nice side.
Yeah, I'm looking at this.
It's a balanced side. It's a balanced side, I would call it. They haven't got one particular star, but for me, they're a well-driven team.
Yeah, very well-oiled team. They got a lot. I think they've just got a lot of players that play at a high level, but no like world beaters. But you got Barella, Lautaro Martinez, Marcus Thuram up top is good. Bastoni centre back is so impressive. Çalhanoğlu, great player.
That front 2 though is just it shouldn't work, but it does.
Oh, it's good. It's like harking back to like good old striker partnerships. One big lad, one smaller fast lad.
Absolutely.
Suarez and Sturridge, that should have never worked, but it did, and it just gives that same vibe where it's just you don't know who's going to turn up on the day, but one of them's turning up, and when they both turn up, it's magic. It's magic. So. They'll trouble Man City, I agree. Absolutely. I think Juventus, people are sleeping on Juventus.
You like Vlahovic.
You think?
Yeah.
I don't know. I like Thiago Motta as a manager, and I like some of their signings. I think Douglas Luiz was a good move. Is it Kenan Yildiz, the Turkish lad? He's good. Dusan Vlahovic up top. But I don't know. I think Juve's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a bit early because Thiago Motta's style of play is so different to what we see in football now. So it'd be interesting to see. I mean, I think looking at their fixtures, Man City should be a shoo-in for the top 8. I mean, you'd think that anyway, just with the quality of players.
I think the only one there that interests me is them going away to PSG.
See how that goes.
I think PSG obviously haven't had the best time in the Champions League, and that's kind of like what they're aiming for. But I like this new. So they signed João Neves, who's looked really good so far this season.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think now that they're out of their Neymar and Mbappe era, and they're kind of focusing on building a cohesive side, I think they could be an interesting team.
Liverpool will quickly brush past them. They've got Real Madrid at home, which would be good. You've got Leipzig, Leverkusen, so obviously you can have the Xabi Alonso reunion. They've got AC Milan, Lille, Eindhoven, Bologna, and Girona. I think Liverpool will probably see past quite a few of those teams, but maybe they're ones that I'll be looking at in the playoff
There's
round.
a few hard ones there, you know.
Yeah, Madrid, that's a hard one. Leipzig is hard. Leverkusen hard. Maybe Lille.
Bologna top 4 from last year as well. Got to be careful.
Yeah,
but no more Thiago Motta.
True.
Controversial call. I think they're winning no more than 4 games.
Not good.
I love that.
Very interesting.
I think there is quite a few hard ones in there, to be fair.
Yeah, it's not easy because, I mean, in your group, you usually have that team where you're thinking, right, we can pick up 6 points from them, and then we've only got to pick up, a point or 3 points from another team. But you don't get that in this new format, which I guess is kind of interesting.
And then the last team in the Champions League from the Prem, Aston Villa, who have been out of the Champions League for, I think it's nearly 20 years.
Yeah.
So first time back in, like Newcastle last year, 20 years out of the competition. To be back into the competition, I can imagine the Aston Villa fans are absolutely buzzing.
And I'm looking at their fixtures, and it's fairly favourable in my opinion. They've got some hard hitters in Bayern Munich, Leipzig, and Juventus, but Munich and Juventus are both at home. Yeah. And then they've got Club Brugge, Celtic, Young Boys, Bologna, and Monaco, and I can definitely see them getting past those bottom 5.
How do you feel about Aston Villa being back in the Champions League?
They've got the cup master himself to be.
They do.
They've got that man. Being Unai Emery is honestly, when it comes to is a cup competition specialist. Then if there's anyone that can get them through those 8 games, I think it's him.
He knows, for me, he knows how to manage it. He knows how to manage a tournament better than he knows how to manage a league. 100%. And results prove that. For me, I think they're going to sit somewhere nicely between that 17th and 23rd. So for me, they're making the playoffs.
Ooh,
nice. It's a call.
I think they finished higher than that, man. I think you're discounting them,
Well, they're not finishing top 8, so they're going to make playoffs.
I think they finish anywhere between 9th to 12th.
I think, like Luke said, the big hitters that they've got, Bayern and Juve, to have them both at Villa Park is quite exciting. I think even if they finish a bit lower down but still get playoffs, I think, they'll have a good time in the Champions League.
This isn't like the big scary Bayern of past. This is Vincent Kompany's new Bayern. This isn't the Juve of past. This is Thiago Motta's new Juve. Maybe Leipzig is the scariest one there away. I don't know. Maybe that's how it is. I've got 3 questions. Go on. Sorry.
I was going to say it's true in the sense of this is Emery settled in. Yeah. This is an Emery fresh off the first season. He's playing a Bayern Munich where they're still learning the ropes. They're changing the style of play completely to play under someone like Vincent Kompany. So I think people may be surprised where they finish because they might be picking up more points than a lot of other teams might be in the Premier League.
For me, it's funny. Sorry, Luke. For me, it's funny how a Arsenal fan can respect Aston Villa so much, even though they didn't do any. But we'll carry on. Sorry.
Let's move swiftly on.
I've got 3 questions. We sort of answered one already, but I want to find out from you guys how you think Arsenal will fare, how far they'll go. I want to know who your dark horse is for the tournament, and then I also want to know who you've got winning it. But I think you've already alluded to that already.
Yeah, so, I'm going to stay Real Madrid. Okay, good man. Arsenal, for me, I think they're going to make quarters. I don't know. I think they'll stumble. They'll get an unfavourable draw like somehow they always do.
So kind of like last year's situation.
Correct.
Yeah.
But, again, Arsenal's one of those things where I want you guys to do. I don't know why.
I love that for you.
I love that for you. But for me, I see quarters. Suit yourself.
I think Arsenal, if we can keep the squad fit, could possibly be Final 4. I think it's a possibility. I think Arsenal, when you look at the rest of the teams in the competition, if they're fully fit, they can compete with anyone on their day.
Yeah.
Arsenal on their day are one of those teams. If they rock up and they play to their best, they could beat whatever's in front of them. So I'm going to say Final 4. Real Madrid, I'm going to stick with as the winner. My dark horse is Leverkusen.
Interesting. Leverkusen.
They got touched up. For me, they got touched up against Liverpool. For me, it's going to be an even road one than that. AC Milan.
Oh, I don't know about that one.
Now, that is if Leao and Hernandez, first of all, can hold hands and go with their coach
get on again.
On the other side. But for me, I like their squad. Really, really like their squad. I was going to say Inter, but we can't really consider Inter a dark horse.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go the other side of the sense here. I'm going to go AC Milan.
Yeah.
What about you?
So I think Arsenal, like Abz said, just
have to clarify.
Like Abz said, I think we're doing semi-finals, and I think we somehow get Man City in the semis and we lose to Man City. sad. I think to win it, I agree. I think it probably will be Real Madrid. Yeah, actually, no, Man City. I think Man City are going to win the Champions League. I think they beat us in the semi and then they win the final. And my dark horse is Atletico Madrid. Can you consider them a dark horse?
Yeah, definitely. I think so.
Yeah, good one. Ooh, but is it a dark horse?
They're like semi-dark horse.
Semi-dark horse. I'll take that. Yeah. I think Atletico is my semi-dark horse.
You're a zebra, half. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah.
I've got Madrid winning it. I think they've just got the second coming of the Galacticos. It's an outrageous squad. I think Arsenal semi-finals. I think Arsenal are up there in maybe the top 4 teams in the competition.
That's what Opta says.
That is also what Opta says, funny enough. And then my dark horse, I'm going to go with Sporting.
Gyökeres
yeah.
To do a man.
I really like what they're doing. They kept holding their manager as well. They've got Ignacio, the centre back.
Yeah.
Really nice team. So yeah, I think they'll do well. Boys, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it. You know, it's very late over there. We'll let you go. You can start watching the Premier League as it starts for you. It's going to be a long night.
Make sure you check them out. They are United by Football. We'll have all their details in the description. We'll ping out loads of socials. Make sure you check them out. They do great stuff. And yeah,
it's been brilliant. Thank you very much, guys.
Boys, before you go, sorry, we haven't mentioned Chelsea. Are they winning the Conference League? I think we'll just.
Who did you play? Was it Serviette?
No, I'm just saying, just for my ego.
They've got to make up teams to play Chelsea.
You
now.
lost to it.
We've got a Serviette here, boys. It's about here. All right.
Thanks very much,
boys. On behalf of us, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and
thank you.
From our guys, we'll check them all out, and we'll have all your socials from there as well.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.
Thank you, boys. We'll catch you again soon.
Likewise.
Ciao, ciao.